Newcastle United, champions, and deservedly champions as well, and I love it. I've got completely swept up in it over the last 24 hours, starting yesterday morning, all the footage, all the photos from the night before at Trafalgar Squares, all the Geordies arrive in London, the build up to the game, the display from War Flags, the performance of Newcastle, the celebrations, all the videos that's been coming out. There's loads of stories within this victory for Newcastle. And I was very much rooting for Newcastle yesterday. I think it's fantastic for the football club. I think it's incredible for the fan base. I think it's brilliant for the city. And I also think it's really good for English football as well, for the competitive nature of English football, to see Newcastle United win a trophy. Just like I think it's good for Liverpool to go on and win the Premier League title. I was rooting for Newcastle yesterday, and I am rooting for Liverpool to go on and lift that Premier League title in May, which they will. This isn't going to derail their season, but what it might do is just really give Newcastle that last minute push they need for the running of the Premier League campaign to go and get Champions League football as well. But what a fantastic final that was. I absolutely loved it. That was, I think, one of the best performances I've seen this season, easily, by a team. It was just a complete performance from start to finish. Eddie Howe got it bang on, and I'm really happy for him, to be honest with you. First English manager to win a major domestic trophy since Harry Redknapp in 2008. That is wild when you think about it. Harry Redknapp, who signed Eddie Howe for Portsmouth as well. So now you know Kieran Trippier is going to go on and win a trophy in 2042. I make it, if my maths is correct there. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Now, there's a lot of talk about how Liverpool were poor, they didn't turn up, the players didn't turn up. Salah, again, in a final, no impact. I was going to say low impact, no impact at all. And that is true. It got to the point at the end where Arne Slot was making substitutions of utter desperation. He was just flinging players on. You didn't really feel like they were coming on with a tactical plan or with something that was going to change how the game was going, or it was going to upset Newcastle. By the end of it, I was thinking Liverpool's best chance of scoring here is by just thumping it to Van Dijk inside the box. I genuinely thought that would be the best avenue. Liverpool's two best players on the day, I felt, were substitutes. One was Harvey Elliott. I felt he came on and tried to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. And also Chiesa as well came on and got his goal. Someone that we've not seen for the last 2 months, but Liverpool aside, yes, they were poor. However, I think that sort of takes away from just how good Newcastle were. And I didn't watch it thinking, oh, Liverpool are rubbish today. I was watching it thinking, wow, this is incredible. Eddie Howe had everything from, like I said, first minute to the last minute, but right to left, front to back, every small bit of detail, Eddie Howe got it spot on. He had a plan specifically designed for Liverpool, specifically designed for the Carabao Cup final. You listen to the build-up, and Eddie Howe was speaking about how, you know, they've moved the hotel away from Wembley to keep the players calm, to get them away from Wembley so they're away from the occasion. Every bit of preparation Newcastle did in the lead up to the final, we won't even know about most of it. But every bit of prep they did paid off. They were superb. One of the best performances I've seen from a side out of possession. Let Liverpool have the ball. And this is where you can really sense the difference between Eddie Howe pre-Newcastle and Newcastle. That gap from Bournemouth and Newcastle. He's spoken before about how he's went away and learned, how he went to Spain to study how Simone sets up Atletico Madrid defensively, because Bournemouth were leaking goals. Newcastle under Howe, usually defensively, very, very solid, very sound. Yesterday, you could have told me that was an Atletico Madrid performance out of possession. I would have believed it. Very compact, no space whatsoever. And the togetherness of that squad was just incredible. Like I said, there was stories running throughout this. The biggest one, of course, being Dan Byrne, a local boy who went back to Newcastle United a couple of years ago to help them stay up, to help survive relegation, scoring the goal at Wembley for his boyhood club. I mean, if you could write a script for Newcastle winning the title, that would be it. The touch of class from Kieran Trippier and also Bruno Guimarães when they went to lift the trophy, calling Lascelles over. The guy that 10 years ago was there at Newcastle when they were crap. He was the one rolling his sleeves up, pulling his socks up, taking responsibility, trying to get that bad Newcastle side back into the Premier League. He was there doing it as club captain. So to see the now club captain and vice captain call him over, luckily the trophy's got 3 handles and lift it together. It was a nice moment, and it just shows the respect and the class and the togetherness of that squad. Stories everywhere. I'm not going to lie, there was a photo yesterday, went around on social media, of 2 young lads stood on the underground tube. One of them must have been, I don't know, a year old or something. He was able to stand, but not much. And on the back it had R.I.P. Daddy. My word. So 2 an inconvenient time to cough. 2 young lads off to Wembley without their dad. I've seen pictures, screenshots of people messaging their loved ones who are no longer with us, just saying, "Ma'am, we did it," or whatever. My lumping throat stuff reading all this. But that's what it means. Football is incredible when it's right. Football unlocks emotions and feelings that nothing else can touch, really. Those Newcastle fans yesterday, you've seen loads of them crying, tears in their eyes, and you don't look at them as a football fan and think, "What are you doing, you muppet?" You look at them and think, "You know what? I get it. Enjoy it." I absolutely loved it. Anyway, let's talk about the performance on the pitch a little bit. Set pieces, obviously huge. Howe and Tyndall have always been good at set pieces, from the lower leagues of English football right the way up to the Champions League. Yeah, wow. The thing is, though, yesterday, after the first one, it was a warning sign to Liverpool. Here's what we're going to do. And sometimes when you do that tactic, you've got to get it right. And you maybe only get 1 or 2 chances to do it. So when Trippier's hitting it direct, as straight as an arrow onto the head of Dan Burn, there's your warning sign. Dan Burn's at the back post. He's away from Van Dijk. He's away from Konate. Initially, not until the last 2 or 3 corners, he was away from Konsa as well. He was up against Alexis McAllister, crying out loud. But there's a warning sign there. And this is where Arne Slot and his team, and also his players on the pitch, failed to adapt. Whether it was a little bit of arrogance, which is, I don't worry about it, we'll be fine, we don't need to worry about that. Whether it was lack of awareness, maybe they didn't notice, but I struggle to believe that, especially in this day and age when you study every single detail so much. I struggle to believe that someone on the Liverpool coach wasn't responsible for looking at set pieces and didn't notice that. After the first one, Liverpool should have changed it. They should have amended it. They didn't. You look at how Newcastle were defending set pieces. They had the likes of Dan Burn around Van Dijk. So when it went to Van Dijk, bang, the tallest and strongest players were up against him. Liverpool ignored the warning signs and ultimately paid the price. It almost cost them a goal, the corner before the goal that happened. Dan Burn got his head on it, heads it down. I think it was Bruno that flicked it towards the goal but didn't get enough on it. Goal, Dan Burn, fantastic. And this is where, when it comes to a cup final, you need to make sure that you are just squeezing everything out of your team. You need your team to turn up. You need all 11 players to turn up, but you need to make sure that everything is ready to go. Set pieces, Newcastle 1, Liverpool 0. But the warning signs were there for Liverpool. They ignored them. And post-half-time, they continued to ignore them. They still had Alexis McAllister up against Dan Burn. It didn't harm them, but nearly did with the disallowed goal. Dan Burn was the one that flicked it towards the Liverpool goal. Decent save by Kelleher. And then Isak put it in. Offside, fair enough. But it's another warning shot. But again, Liverpool continued to ignore it. Absolutely wild. Isak, best striker in the world as far as I'm concerned. The Murphy to Isak combination, the assist and the goal scorer, is the most popular one in the Premier League this season. 5 times I think it's happened, which is more than any other combination. The movement from Isak for that goal was just outstanding. Just peels away from Liverpool defenders. Great finish, celebration, fantastic, iconic. It's going to live long in the memory of Newcastle fans with him. Two celebrate. You got like a double celebration. The one with him doing that with Van Dijk with his head in his hands, and the second one when he stood on the advertising board in front of all the Newcastle United fans. The camera, when Isak was running off, the camera could not focus on it. It was bouncing. It was shaking. Goosebump stuff watching it. Newcastle deservedly winners. Now, there's a lot of players getting a lot of praise, understandably so. Trippier was excellent. Real sort of, although he's no longer the captain's performance from Kieran Trippier. Defence was superb. Dan Burn was brilliant. The midfield has just got everything. Bruno, Tonali, Joelinton, what a balanced midfield that is. It's got power, it's got the technical ability. Whether they want to move the ball quickly or slow it down, they can do either. They've got the physical presence. There's that aggressiveness from all three of them as well. It's not like there's one or two in there that are a bit stronger than that. All three are really strong, really aggressive. It's a well put together midfield trio, that is. I thought they were magnificent at Wembley yesterday. The front three did more work off it than on it. Barnes, Isak and Murphy, a lot of running around. But my man of match, and I don't think he's got the plaudits he deserves outside the Newcastle fan base. I've seen a lot of Newcastle fans praising him, rightly so. But my man of match was Livramento. I thought he was sensational. Out of position as well. Let's remember that. Out of position over on the left-hand side, up against one of the best players in the world in Mo Salah. And yes, I know historically in finals he's not turned up. But you can't bank on Salah not turning up in a final. You've got to assume you're going to come up against prime Mo Salah. Didn't get a sniff. No shots, no chances created. Livramento won everything. But it's not just the fact that he kept Mo Salah quiet. It's the fact that he also got forward really well. Now, when you're up against a player like that, you'd be forgiven for maybe being a bit hesitant to get forward, for being a bit further back than usual, so that if Liverpool got the ball and tried to transition quickly, you were there marking Salah. Because that's where a lot of Salah's good work's done. When there's a turnover and Liverpool spring a counter-attack quickly, that's where I think Salah's most effective. None of that. There was no fear from Livramento. But when you do go forward, you've got to make the right call. You can't go forward all the time. So when you do go, you've got to get it right. You've got to get the timing right. You've got to get everything right. I thought he did. Some of his deliveries were excellent. His involvement in the build-up play was excellent. I thought Livramento was sensational yesterday. You know, he's in the England squad, deservedly so. There's a spot up for grabs at left-back in the England squad, which I think might have and possibly would have, definitely should have been filled by Lewis Hall. Now, obviously, Lewis Skelly will be the favourite for that, and I appreciate Tuchel will probably play wing-backs if he does what he has done historically. But Livramento did absolutely no harm whatsoever to move ahead of Lewis Skelly in the pecking order and say, I'm the guy that plays over on the left-hand side. He was fantastic. Every Newcastle player stepped up yesterday. Some of them, I think, had the best performance they've ever seen. Now, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Newcastle on this channel because a couple of years ago I did this video, pop on your screen now, and it did incredible views. 20,000 views is incredible considering it was like my 10th video I've ever done. And the amount of Newcastle fans were in the comments just saying nice things about the video. Not gonna lie, it encouraged me. It's like, do you know what? I can maybe do this. Granted, I didn't do it for much long after. I took a 2-3 year pause. However, I've always remembered that from Newcastle fans, and that's something I shan't forget. But yesterday, we spoke about Livramento, the Lascelles. When you're a fan of a football club, what you want when you buy players, you want them to come in and you want them to give everything to your club. I don't think it's much to ask, really, but it's not every player does. Yesterday, when you were watching that Newcastle team, there's a couple of them there with ties to Newcastle. There's a couple in there that's been there for a while. It honestly felt like I was watching 11 Newcastle United fans on the pitch. Now, I know I'm not. I'm watching one, Dan Burn. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like players that have bought in to the club, to the fan base, to Eddie Howe, to each other. And when you listen to what Bruno Guimarães says after the game about how it feels like the World Cup for those fans, he gets it. He gets it. Joelinton loves playing for Newcastle. He absolutely loves it. He's the best striker in the world, in my opinion. Look at him, giving it everything for that club. The culture that they've created is insane, to be honest with you. The players that bought into it. And when you spend money, which Newcastle have done, I think it's easy to get it wrong. I think it's harder to buy players when you have more money. I know that sounds a bit silly, but let me flip it around. It's easier to waste money when you've got lots of it. You look at Man City and Chelsea, Man United, over the years, Arsenal, they brought in big players for big fees, and it's not worked. My club, West Ham, have done that. We've brought in big players for big money, and it's not worked. And a large part of that is because it's been the wrong fit, whether it's for tactical reasons, whether it's for, the man behind the player reasons, the character of the person, whether it's because he can't do it in England or the Premier League, or he doesn't like it in England. You don't get that feeling with Newcastle. You feel like they've got their recruitment spot on. Now, obviously, not every player is going to work out, but you look at their big signings like Botman, Trippier, the first player to buy into that project. There's your reward. You've just won the Carabao Cup. Tonali came over, got banned. Newcastle stuck by him. Bang, there's your reward, Newcastle United. I'm going to put in a performance like that in the final. And he's been fantastic this season. The run Newcastle had to this final as well, I don't think has been highlighted enough. They beat Arsenal, they beat Chelsea, they beat Nottingham Forest and Wimbledon and Brentford. But still, it's not been an easy route to get to Wembley in the first place. But they've got there, turned up, deserved winners on the day, deserved winners of the competition. Incredible. And the last thing I'm going to say, like I said, I hope this can now go and inspire them. Unfortunately for Newcastle, they've got an international break because they could play... We said the hardest team in the league next weekend, Liverpool. And I would bet on Newcastle to win. That can give them the momentum. They're guaranteed, at worst, if they have a disaster between now and the end of the season, to get Conference League football. That's good enough. That's good enough for them. I remember, I've been a bit suspicious about Howe. Well, 3 years ago I was sitting here saying Howe is the best signing Newcastle have made. They're underrated. He's not getting enough credit. There was a bit of me that thought, I'm still not sure he's the guy to deliver the success that the Newcastle owners will ultimately want, which is to win the Premier League title. Is he good enough to do that? I wasn't sure. Until yesterday, it's convinced me a little bit. I remember speaking to Johnny from Newcastle Fans TV. He said to me, Eddie Howe's showing he can get us Champions League football. Eddie Howe is showing he can get us to Wembley a couple of years ago. All he has to do now is go and show us he can win a trophy. He's done it. Howe has done it now. And I think, you know what? Maybe they can not win the title next season or anything like that. But in August next season, in August, Newcastle United fans can believe. They can look at their season ahead and go, do you know what? We can win the FA Cup. We can win the European competition we're in. Because Eddie Howe can do it. He's shown us he can do it. What an incredible feeling. And I'm going to round it up with this. There'll be some people that might go, hey, third best trophy in England. Who cares? As a fan of a club that won the third best trophy in European football, and this is hard. I think if people are watching this that perhaps support Liverpool or Man United or Chelsea, not Man City, because they'll know what it's like. I think it's easy to not know how much this means to fans. It's easy to not know how much this means to Newcastle United fans. Like I said, I've seen people texting their dead parents. 3 or 4 texts, knowing they're not going to get a reply, knowing that it's not. But it's that connection. It's that they've won a trophy and their first instinct is, I need to let my mum know. I need to let my dad know. Grand, I hope you're watching. That's because it's the family thing. I support West Ham because of my dad. And watching your club win a trophy, and it doesn't matter which one it is. Yes, the Carabao Cup, despite what Jamie Carragher said, isn't as prestigious as the FA Cup or winning the Premier League or the Champions League. But you know what? Those days might come for Newcastle United. But who cares? Nobody. Not one Newcastle United fan cares. And as a West Ham fan, I don't care that the Conference League's not as good as Europa League or Champions League. Yes, I'd love to win those. Do you know what? I think the Carabao Cup's better than the Conference League. I've said it, right? And I hope I see West Ham win a trophy at Wembley. That's what I hope. But despite, I don't know, there'll be a few people that look down on it. Despite what they say, no one's listening and no one's bothered because no one can take the last 24 hours away from Newcastle United fans. Incredible. Well done, Eddie Howe. That performance was stunning. And I've loved everything to do with it. Watching everything over the last 24 hours and something like that. A little bit. I mean, a got a little bit of envy, thinking, oh, I hope I see that at West Ham. Bear in mind, we went 43 years without a trophy. It's perfectly feasible. We'll go another 43 and then some. Newcastle went longer. Well done. Well done, everyone connected to that football club, because they all played their part. It was perfect from the word go. Now they can go get Champions League football, finishing in the top 5 in the Premier League. This is really going to light a rocket up them. Not that they needed it per se, but it's going to do it. And I think they will do it. And yeah, I think for me, I feel like this is almost unlocking a new era for Newcastle United. Whether that happens or not, we'll wait and see. But I feel like it will. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. I promise I'm going to try and do some more videos, more than one every 3 years. Do drop a like on the video as well by clicking thumbs up. Helps out my little channel. And I'll catch you maybe later this week. I'll see you in a bit.